T-minus 15.
T-minus 10, 9, 8.
We have a new kind of port in our lexicon these days. It's spaceport.
A commercial spaceport.
7, 6 green board.
Spaceport brings a whole new concept to Mojave.
5, main engine start. 4.
We're standing out here in the middle of the New Mexico Spaceport.
Main engine start.
We partnered with the state to develop the Oklahoma Spaceport as a tourist destination.
4,
Maybe you'd like to be in Shanghai in 90 minutes.
3,
This is a business that's growing.
It'll give people a taste of what it's like to leave the planet.
2,
And once you have private operators taking people into Earth orbit, I think the hotels are not that far behind.
1.
We're going to see a whole new industry in space.
We're in the heart of the Chihuahuan Desert. And we're standing out here in the middle of the New Mexico Spaceport. The nearest city is Truth or Consequences, probably about 20 or 30 miles in that direction. In that direction is the town of Las Cruces, New Mexico. We really expect to have 2 types of space vehicles launched from here. One of them will be the traditional vertically launched rockets, those that take off flying straight up and going into space. The other one will be more of the type of Spaceship One, and Spaceship One was carried up by an aircraft, and then it was launched by dropping from the aircraft and lighting off its rocket engine and flying vertically into space. So both of those will be here.
3, 2, 1, fire.
A spaceport is really nothing more than a facility with the infrastructure and everything it takes to support the hardware and the people on the hardware to launch off to the final frontier.
Liftoff of the Delta II rocket from Earth to planet Mars.
My name's Rick Searfoss. I'm a retired colonel in the U.S. Air Force. Come from a background as a fighter pilot, test pilot, then pilot astronaut. I flew 2 space shuttle missions as a pilot and 1 as the commander on Columbia STS-90 back in 1998.
For the Space Shuttle Columbia, over.
We've got years and years and years and thousands of flights in aviation. But aviation did not become mature overnight. It was a barnstorming period. There was a period where aviators took risk as they went forward in the development of aviation. My name is Patricia Grace Smith, and I'm the Associate Administrator for Commercial Space Transportation at the Federal Aviation Administration. We're the only office in the federal government responsible for licensing and regulating and keeping the uninvolved public safe for commercial space transportation.
We hope to open up a whole nother niche in aviation of entrepreneurial personal space. We of course have the classic spaceports in Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral down in Florida, Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, where huge rockets have gone, and then worldwide several others. But I think we'll see a virtual explosion in those numbers of facilities that can support those kind of activities as we move forward in the future.
In the past, most U.S. spaceports have been out on the coast. So you launch out over the water as a way to keep the uninvolved public away from the event. And now we're beginning to see inland spaceports created, in part because if you have a completely reusable spaceship, like Spaceship Two will be and Spaceship One was, that aren't dropping parts and pieces as they go to orbit, then it's much safer for the people underneath the flight path.
We have licensed spaceports in California, Florida, Virginia, Kodiak, Alaska, and the first inland launch site at Mojave.
Now, Mojave's not your normal airport. The personal spaceflight industry was born here on June 21st of '04 when Spaceship One launched and recovered to Mojave, California, right here.
250,000 feet and climbing.
the significance of what is going on right now in terms of a transition from a model where humans go into space is only big government programs to one where, hey, we can do it too, is phenomenal. It's historical. The closest parallel I can draw to it is the incredible development of aviation after Charles Lindbergh flew his prize flight across the Atlantic.
The United States is founded upon the principles that government should do what government must do because industry cannot. And at the opening of the space age, the role of government was clear. There were no profits to be made in space. I hope that we are entering an era where the converse will be true, that private space activity will come to the forefront and government activities will be in a lesser role.
NASA advised us during our contract that they'd like us to focus on an Earth-to-orbit taxi, a very simple vehicle for taking crew, ordinary people to low Earth orbit.
In the next 20 or 30 years, you'll see commercial space hotels, you'll see commercial bases on the moon, you'll see lunar tourism.
Richard Branson loves business and all sorts of business, and he likes to pioneer things as well. He wanted to be the first spaceflight. So he started Virgin Galactic as an idea in the mid-90s, and then decided that what he needed to do was find the right technology. My name's Alex Ty. I'm VP Operations for Virgin Galactic. So it's my job to oversee the design and the specification of the spaceships, and then get them tested, training and the pilots to fly them, and then go find places to fly them, and then collect people and fly them to space and bring them back safely. We have a system which uses air launch, which means that a mothership carries the spaceship to altitudes of 50,000 feet or so, and then releases the spaceship, which glides clear of the mothership and then lights its rocket motors, accelerates, and just points up and disappears up into space.
You know, from having experienced being in space and this orbital experience for a total of 39 days in all 3 flights, far and away the best aspect of it, from my perspective, is the view. It's just this incredibly beautiful, sublime experience of looking down at the atmosphere on edge, seeing the curvature of the Earth, that it really is curved, and seeing, you know, the big picture, the overview. When we get people up to orbit on a more regular basis, this personal spaceflight revolution, which is starting, that will be, I think, the key best part of it. The experience of weightlessness is great, but for me, it was always, when it ended, it was like, okay, been there, done that. It was a great thrill, but I didn't really miss it that much. I missed the view. But I think every aspect of it is something that people will who experience this will remember forever.
There's some real creativity going on in the private entrepreneurial side, and a lot of bright talent coming in. That's a really new, exciting twist to the story. And you know, the solar system is going to shrink. It looks big now, but I'm sure when somebody put themselves in a Conestoga wagon on the East Coast and tried to get to the West, it was a long way to go. Today we're in a Conestoga wagon, era of rocketry, I think. And I think we got some real surprises coming in new physics and new propulsion schemes that have radically changed the way we move about.
I was 13 years old when we landed on the moon, was just fascinated by the space race. Those of us that grew up during the Apollo timeframe, we know the magic that was going on then. And I'm so excited now that on the private sector, kids are going to start flocking to it again. We just have to get the word out.
We're going to need scientists, we're going to need engineers, we're going to need people who have the ability to work with high-tech systems, to build the ones that we're flying today and to design the ones that we're going to be using tomorrow.
There'll be opportunities for people with backgrounds in math and science, but you know, this is a business that's growing, so there'll be opportunities for people in administration, management, marketing, infrastructure development, maintenance, repair of the equipment that's used. I mean, when you're talking about building a whole industry from the ground up, there's all kinds of jobs available. And whether it's math, science, or marketing and business is your background, there'll be opportunities there.
And we need to start talking to them now about what those career areas are. How do you become an aerospace engineer? Can a chemical engineer work in space? What about an electrical engineer? Is there relevance there? What about policy? Who are the people that are laying this policy down for the future of space?
You make it exciting and interesting, they'll flock to it. And that's what's really beginning to happen now. I'm beginning to see floodgates as, innovation and creativity begets more innovation and creativity.
This is so new that the young engineers that we have brought in, we have a good mixture of young and old and in between, that they have an opportunity to really build the future. And how many times in a lifetime do you have a chance to do that?
1